It is a very confusing thing. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Chris, for putting this together. The honest truth is, I'm just a startup guy. I've been in startups for 25 years, which is my entire career. I'm a repeat entrepreneur. Last company is obviously Life360, which I took public as CFO. But surprisingly enough, I was the first VP of product as well. So kind of transitioned within the company. Before that, I was a very early employee at a company, employee number 2 at a company called Gigya that got sold to SAP for $350 million. So kind of been through 2 big exits from start all the way to finish. Then I'm also a venture capitalist. I started investing in 2010. I first worked in institutional venture as a senior associate at a firm called Morientire Ventures, which is ran by Haas people as well, Rebecca Lynn and others. Then I started an incubator called UpWest, which used to bring Israeli companies from Israel to the Bay Area. I'm originally from Israel, been in the Bay Area for the last 17 years. And in 2014, I set up my fund, Recursive Ventures, which is what I do full-time now. Chris is actually one of my first investors. He put in a small check. I think he's happy about that, right, Chris?
I have to support my friends. If all of you that start any funds, please invite me to invest.
Yeah, and I've invested in so far 193 startups, out of which 2 are decacorns and another 6 are unicorns. So I've been very, very fortunate to partner with founders very early in the journey, help them get from 0 to 1, help them scale up, and just be successful. And I'm here in Singapore once or twice a year. Love Singapore, so much fun being here. I have a pretty significant investor base here, believe it or not. I mean, you probably know all the family offices around, right? So I have a few of them working with me, partnering with me, and that's why I come back and excited to be here and connect with all of you guys. So.
Great. So let's just dig right into AI. Is it are we sort of is it overvalued? Should we be buying secondaries? What are your thoughts?
So, yeah, I get a lot of thoughts, but I'll try to keep it short and keep it to the point. So. I think now everybody, I wonder if anybody would push back on this notion, but I think most people that I talk with now agree that AI is the biggest technology wave we've ever seen. Probably, as big as the invention of the personal computer, maybe more, right? Because we're going through this transition of, computers, personal computers, internet, mobile, SaaS, all those things, they significantly enhanced our productivity. Right, as humans. They made us more productive, more communicative, more, it was easier for us to get tasks done. AI actually takes it one step further. AI does the job for us, right? And that's why I'm personally in the camp that if tech represents 15% of global GDP today, tech plus AI could be 50% of GDP globally, and potentially with a bigger GDP number, right? So this is probably the biggest opportunity we've seen in our lifetimes. Maybe the biggest we'll ever see, right? It's unprecedented. At the same time, and this is where I get a little bit contrarian, I think we're in an AI infrastructure bubble. And really when you look at the amount of CapEx being invested, this year hyperscalers are projected to invest $700 billion in generative AI infrastructure, essentially. And you look on the flip side at what's happening in revenue, specifically with B2B enterprise revenue, right? There is a huge mismatch between the two, and we're not exactly sure that the mismatch will close fast enough for the quote-unquote bubble to not burst in the meanwhile. Now, I think that there is a high likelihood that this AI infrastructure bubble bursts. And I think one model that could be an interesting comparison for us to think about is what happened in 1998 and 1999. Where, Cisco was worth, almost $1 trillion for selling a network equipment box, right? And then the whole thing blew up. But what came out of that? Google, Meta, Huawei, so many companies that we know, right? And I think that's kind of the other thing that's maybe happening is we have a mismatch, an investment mismatch first and foremost, and an expectation mismatch with timing. This will take longer, especially at the enterprise level, right? There are a lot of issues that we need to solve, and we can talk about those a little bit. And also, potentially, we're focused on the wrong layers of value creation here. Because I'm still a firm believer that most of the value accrued is going to happen at the application layer. It will happen with the vendors, with the companies that serve the end user, that kind of bridge that gap on the last mile, right? And the LLMs and NVIDIA and all these kind of, I call them infrastructure companies that we're talking about, they're not that. They're like, semiconductor and operating system, right? But what will be built on top of that? And I think that's kind of the mismatch or bubble that we live in. And the big question is, where do we go from here, right? So personally, I'm not putting any money into Anthropic syndicates and secondaries. I'm not investing in OpenAI. I'm not investing in any of those things. I'm investing in the next generation of application layer companies in the enterprise that will, potentially create a SaaSmageddon. I'm actually a believer in SaaSmageddon. And we really take all the tools that we're seeing, being developed now, and kind of bridge the gap between those tools to actually serving the enterprise well, right? That's where I'm putting my money. So.
Cool. Questions from the audience.
I have a question. Since Claude claim themselves as end user productivity tool and they're selling to a lot of enterprises around the world, and apparently it's now heavily branded themselves as world #1 coding tool, right? From this perspective, do you still see Anthropic as a infrastructure like company, or like the product is actually pushing them towards to C or B2B type of route? And so which impact their way, the evaluation being evaluated?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, when I look at Anthropic and also OpenAI is kind of similar, I actually see two companies or more. One company is the foundational model, the LLM, right? GPT, Claude. I believe that layer is actually a commodity, or it will become a commodity, right? The difference is between the different, the leading LLMs, closed ones, open source. Obviously, DeepSeek has also had a big impact. Llama kind of works for a lot of use cases and a lot of folks. The differences between all those LLMs are massively shrinking. They're not going to be that different from each other in the next year or two, because they're all using the same data, they're all using the same techniques, they're all using the same sort of post-training expert network kind of fine-tuning, right? So I think that is a commodity, and if you ask me to place a value on Claude, the LLM, I would say it's zero, right? It's a commodity. But then there's a second layer, which is for OpenAI, for example, that's ChatGPT. What is ChatGPT trying to do? They're trying to compete over there's a Googler here, so it's perfect for you. They're trying to take away the $2 to $3 trillion cash cow, which is Google search, right? Yeah. That is the best cash cow on the internet, right? That's what they're trying to do. That business might as well be valued at $898 billion, which I think is their last valuation, right? And potentially, same for Claude, specifically when it comes to Claude Code. Right, so that's vibe coding. They have Cursor, they've got Replit and all these others competing with them. But yeah, maybe they can create a better mousetrap, right, for engineers and kind of take a significant chunk of that market share. I think that's where the value lies at the application layer. Now I want to tie it back to what is going to happen at the application layer, because let's take something like Anthropic Claude. They're not going to be able to create a business unit with an independent go-to-market and all the patches and pieces and things that you need to be able to do to deliver a good service to the end customer in every single business vertical that's out there. It's impossible, right? There's so much work they need to have. They will have to create 50 different independent companies inside their business, right, to be able to do that. So that's not going to happen. What I think will happen is each one of those LLM companies will pick a couple of applications that their board and executive team believe are the highest value things to go after, right? And they will try to aggressively go after them, right? And try to win because of verticalization, because they have the LLM and they have the application, right? But for the rest, I think it's hunting season. It's like, who's going to take those different SaaS verticals with AI first applications, and how could they do it?
Questions? Talk about AI in education. You have kids as well. Are you worried about them? Tell us about.
I actually think, this is contrarian, we talked about this, everybody's saying, okay, quit college, no college. I think it's the opposite. I think actually what happened in the last few hundreds of years was that college was, especially in the last 20, 30, 40 years, right? That college was emphasizing skill building, right? But if you go back to the roots of higher education, it's actually about critical thinking, and it's thinking about it's thinking in first principles. I think those skills are more important than ever, because you are not going to be able to oversee the AI. You're not going to be able to provide the right input to the AI. You're not going to be able to criticize the output of the AI work if you don't have critical thinking. And our universities, especially in the past, were very, very good at helping us with critical thinking. And really, what should I explore? What's important? What do I focus on? So I actually think now is a great time to go to kind of a wide, almost like philosophical type of education that university provide. What we don't need to spend a lot of time on in education, especially in higher education, is kind of skill building, because like being an expert in spreadsheets might not really matter one day, right? And a lot of the technical sort of tactical things are going to be done by AI, but who's going to oversee that AI? People that have critical thinking capabilities.
So thank you for supporting the humanities and English majors and art history majors like us appreciate that. But that's that's the critical thinking humanities are gentlemen pursuits, but that was something that's needed today basically. And yeah, we need that to feed the AI, I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that. And the AI has, we have a lot of quality issues with this AI thing. Last year, 95% of generative AI POCs in the enterprise failed, are not delivering the results people want. The more complex the system is, the more complex human expectations are, the more, for the engineers in the room, the more complex the business logic is. This thing is not going to figure the business logic for you. Once it has all the logic, if you give it a paper this big, although there's an overfit problem, but putting that aside, it will get solved. If you give it the exact recipe of everything you want it to do, it will execute it maybe better than an engineer, right? One day. But if you're not going to tell it what to do, and you expect it to figure out what you want and what works for your company and what works for your team, it's going to make a lot of mistakes, right? So yeah, we need to guide AI, and we need to scrutinize the outputs of AI's work.
So would you steer your kids to humanities or technical skills? I'm not a parent, but whoever parents are, this is a good time to take notes.
They're a little bit too young. They're 13 and 10, right?
Oh my God, I've got friends whose kids are 13 and they're already looking at colleges. I'm just joking.
So maybe we'll do one more question.
Philosophical differences. I like.
Maybe we'll do one more question, then we can mingle more.
Yeah.
Who has the final question for the group?
Yeah, so I have a question actually about OpenClaw. So
Yeah.
I think that's the most. I think everyone else is thinking whether AI will replace us, and with OpenClaw, I think that brings AI one step closer to replacing lawyers, doctors, even marketing agency. And I know of some founders who have used OpenClaw in terms of replacing their team. So maybe it used to be a team of 10, now it's a team of 5. Yeah. So what are your views on that, and how fast is OpenClaw able to develop, to fully replace one worker?
I spent 3 days trying to get OpenClaw to work really well for me in the VPS in the cloud, and it kind of works. So I have a much more critical point of view on OpenClaw. I don't think it is a significant innovation, actually. A lot of things that you do with OpenClaw today, you can do with Cloud Cowork, you can do with Cloud Code, right? The thing that OpenClaw really did is it made it really easy to deploy an agentic platform on your local machine, right? And bypass all the security and all the tokens and all the keys that you'd have to give it access to all those different systems. And if you look at the actual OpenClaw open source foundation, it's actually a pretty thin and simplistic agentic orchestration layer, right? So I think it is a catalyst for something that was there, right? Is there since code at least for me, right? And I think it's very dangerous. I would not install it on my local machine.